This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Hey, I'm running out to drop off a stack of letters and packages. Need anything shipped while I'm gone?
Save the gas. Stamps.com lets you print postage and schedule pickups right from your desk. Sync your contacts into the address book, get detailed accounting insights, and get notified the moment your certified mail is delivered.
All from my desk?
All from your desk.
Join the 4 million businesses using Stamps.com right now with code PODCAST and get your free welcome gift. Stamps.com, code PODCAST. Taxes and fees apply.
So, habits are both, they're a two-way street. They're both good and they're bad habits. And on the Swift Kick in the Ass, we like to focus on how to make those habits good and how to make positive change in our life. There's a science to habits, and it's really very simple. First, you have to have a trigger, something that initiates a behavior. Second, you need the behavior or the action that you're trying to do consistently. And then the third the third part is often overlooked, and that's the reward, the benefit you gain. So a few episodes back, actually, I think it was about 6 months ago, Tom, you and I were both talking about how out of shape we were and we felt unhealthy and flabby, and we started doing something about it. For me, my gym membership just was not working out. Going to the gym involved a 20-minute drive there and a 20-minute drive back. So right there, 40 minutes out of my time, and I don't have that time to dedicate to that anymore. I have other obligations. So I really had to adapt the way I view exercise in my life. I had to do something. It was driving me nuts. So what I did is I started doing push-ups on a daily basis. And when I first started, I'm so embarrassed to even tell you how few I could do. It was terrible. I've always exercised through my life, so it was really embarrassing to me. But I think I could maybe do 20, 25 push-ups. And I started, trying to push myself a little bit harder, trying to do more. And what I found is that I need to do push-ups every day. I'm now doing them 3 times a day. And the trigger is that I have is I do it right there in the morning. When I'm making my coffee, before I even, have a cup of coffee, I just hit the ground and I'm pushing out, I can push out 40 push-ups easy now. I've been working on this, several months now, I guess, consistently. I was doing 2 times a day. I worked it into 3. So I'm doing, at least 120 push-ups a day. And what I've noticed through that is, I'm getting firmer muscle tone. I'm getting my muscle tone back. I'm feeling really good. And I know it's just this, it's creating triggers for the action that you want, and then rewarding yourself. And after each one, I just try to say, hey, good job. You did it.
Well, here's the thing. We mentioned before on our previous episode, I think it was small steps to big changes. We were trying to, I know I had a gym membership and I was trying to go at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. So that it just didn't happen. I was saying, and I think it was because I was trying to do 2 different things. First of all, I was trying to get my ass out of bed when I'm not a morning person. And then I was trying to go to the gym to train when I don't like to train in the morning. So I was fighting 2 different battles. And you know what happened? I ended up not going to the gym. Now, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I don't go as often as I should. And Jiu-Jitsu, after a while, you can be lazy. You can find a way using technique to not use as much muscle and strength and everything else. And even though I was doing Jiu-Jitsu, I was still gaining weight. So what my solution was to start one thing. I was like, you know what? Let me work out. Let me start every Sunday. I'm gonna do squats and I'm gonna do incline bench presses, and pull-ups, and just keep it real basic and see. And each time I progressed, I only did five sets of 5. So if my weight was, I get to a point to my last set where it should be 5 that I can barely do. And then I try to add weight next week. And that I've been doing that for several months, and that's helped tremendously. It's easy to do because it's there. And I don't, I can do it anytime during the day because it's on the Sunday. And then I do my jiu-jitsu training during the week. But the thing is doing one single thing, right? And it goes for creating good habits, and it goes also for getting rid of bad habits. I know you've had some experience with that with smoking.
Yeah. I agree. As far as I quit smoking cigarettes, I think 15 years ago now. And there are times when I still have urges to do that, but they're very few and infrequent, but I do have them. And I just remember why I decided to quit in the first place. But I remember when I quit, I actually, I had a cold that day, and I left work, and I went to the grocery store to get my, sick food, my chicken soup and ginger ale and orange juice, and I just felt like crap. And I picked up a pack of Marlboro Lights. And so I went home and I ate my chicken soup and had my ginger ale, and I, after a meal, you want to have a cigarette. So
right.
I lit my cigarette, and man, I coughed my head off. I was like, this is ridiculous, ridiculous. Why am I doing this to myself? And I thought, you know what? I feel like crap already. And I had quit before, for an extended period of time. For about 5 years, I had actually quit. And, I went back because I figured, what? I quit before, I'll quit again. 5 years later, it just, I kept doing it. So, what was interesting, so anyhow, so I decided at that point, I'm feeling like crap, so I'm going to quit. And I still had that unopened pack of cigarettes there. I had just bought them, and I kept them around for a while. I was like, I'm not going to, but I hated smelling like smoke all the time. I felt like crap. And I knew, and I was exercising as well too. So, it was just defeating the purpose. And, that was 15 years ago. I just quit. There was no patch involved. There was, it was just cold turkey. And I know that not everyone can do that. And I recognize that a lot of people use the patch now, and they can gradually wean themselves off.
I had a friend that did the same thing. He was struggling with it. And what he did is he took the money that he saved from buying cigarettes, and he saved it. He took the same amount of money, the same amount that he would spend every week on his cigarettes, and he saved it. And at the end of the year, I think he took a cruise. He had a lot of money saved, and it was a way to reward himself. Yeah. You could do it smaller. You don't have to save that long, but it's a way of changing something that's negative into positive.
Yeah, and for me, if you go back to that scientific method that I discussed, having a trigger and then the action and then a reward, there are a lot of triggers for smoking cigarettes, especially like if you're having a drink or you're eating, it's enjoyable afterwards, and replacing that with some other habit is. It works. I think for me, that trigger was, I never wanted to go back to the way I felt, and I had quit before. And I know that even now, 15 years down the road, if I have one cigarette, like if I give into that urge, I'm on that road again. I'll be smoking a pack a day again. Okay. And I don't do it.
Now you've known me for a long time, and what's been my biggest addiction lately? And
Diet Coke.
So it wasn't porn.
It's a pornography store. I was buying pornography.
Yeah, well, that was a problem at one time too. In our last episode, we talked about pornography. But right now, yeah, it was Diet Coke. It was probably since I was 20 years old, and I'm 48 now. I drank Diet Coke, and I wouldn't just drink like a little bit of Diet Coke. I would wake up in the morning, have a Diet Coke. Then I'd have breakfast, and I'd probably have another one. It's like my coffee, all right? And then on the way to work, I'd have another Diet Coke. Then I would get to work, I would drink some more Diet Coke. And, at lunch, I brought 2 every day. And then when I got home for dinner, I would have some, and I'd have some. My daughter used to laugh at me because I'd come in and I'd open up a Diet Coke right before I went to bed. It's close to midnight.
Wow.
I'd pop open the can, just take a sip and go to bed and leave the rest of it there so I could have it in the morning. It was just like
flat Diet Coke.
No, it didn't get flat. I guess it wasn't, if you leave it out too long, yeah, but overnight it didn't turn flat. But what I'm saying is that I always, and my friends and family, they would always be like, "Oh, you got to stop that. It's horrible for you. You lose, you have memory loss, bad vision." And maybe they're right. But I really didn't. I was like, "Hey, it's my one addiction. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. Why can't I drink Diet Coke, man? I don't bother people about their coffee, right?" It kind of irked me. But the more, training in class in jiu-jitsu, I started having more aches and pains. I was like, well, maybe they're right. Maybe it's the Diet Coke. So what have I done? Water. I've switched. And that was very difficult for me. But I went cold turkey. It's been over 2 months with nothing but water. I haven't had any Diet Coke. And how I know that I've kicked it is because there were certain triggers that would make me, if I ate a pizza, which I just had some right before this podcast, I would always want a Diet Coke. I haven't had any Diet Coke. I've been to Disney World. I've been out ordering, which it's funny because when you go to a restaurant and they come and ask me what I'm gonna drink, my habit would just be, Diet Coke. And I get water. And what's even funnier is my wife, who gave me such a hard time with Diet Coke, is ordering a Diet Coke and I'm ordering water. But I've been able to have Chinese food and you go out on my birthday, everything. And I haven't faltered, man. And it's, my wife was saying the other day, she goes, "You know what? I'm really proud of you, because I never thought that you would stop drinking Diet Coke."
So now that you've given that up, I mean, what have you noticed?
Absolutely nothing. But I drank a lot more water. The only time, I don't know. I don't know if it was causing any problem. But the thing is, maybe I pee less because it is a diuretic. Diet Coke will make you pee like crazy, but so does water. The thing is, I wouldn't drink that much water. The only time I would drink water is when I was training, when I was at jiu-jitsu. And that would be it. I wouldn't drink it any other time. And even as a kid growing up, I hated water. The only time I liked water was like if we drank it out of a hose. You remember we were playing and we drank it out of a hose and it has that rubber taste. That's about the only time I think I drank water. But as far as if I went out to a dinner or something or any meal, I would always have a Coke or soda or orange juice or something that had flavor, Kool-Aid, and I tried breaking a Diet Coke habit a long time ago. Not a long time, a couple of years ago. And I tried switching it for what's that stuff? It has NutraSweet in it, but I can't think of the name of it right now. It's like lemonade, but it has like NutraSweet and Crystal Light. That's it. Okay. But I traded one habit for the other, and it didn't really. I was like, you know what? I'm still drinking NutraSweet. I should probably just go clear with water. And I ended up falling back because instead of going cold turkey, I was like, I can have one here and there. But before long, I was back into it. Now I don't have it at all, and I keep it that way. And it was hard. It was like quitting heroin. It's the first week I felt depressed. I felt kind of low and sad because you don't have the caffeine that's coming. I had a massive headache. I had to take, Advil every day because I had this massive headache that wouldn't go away, like this dull headache. And I felt lethargic. But once that week was over, it was fine.
Yeah, that's the same thing with, giving up cigarettes. You're addicted to the nicotine. And for me, it was about 3 days of just hell, constant cravings. But once that leaves your system, it gets easier and easier. When you think about change and creating long-term change, a lot of people think about goals, that they're not going to do this or they're going to do that or something like that. But the way I like to think about it is, try to think about the person I want to be and how my actions lead me to be that person, because let's just face it, our life really is accumulation of our daily lives. And tomorrow is a new day. So you could, if you fail today, you have an opportunity, hopefully tomorrow to keep going.
Absolutely. I mean, we even, our motto on the Swift Kicking Ass is, fall down, stand up, repeat. you're going to screw up. No matter what you do, if you're trying to set a good habit or kick a bad one, you're going to screw up. But as long as you get back on that horse and try again, eventually you'll beat it. And that's what I was saying. I've tried beating Diet Coke before, and I failed. But instead of going right back, I didn't take my own advice. But now I feel good. I feel that, I've gone past that two-month mark. And I know some people will say it only takes 30 days to break a habit. There's been some other studies. I think James Clear had just wrote an article about this. I read this morning, and they were saying it actually takes 2 months that they think, or up to 500 days in order to create a new habit or to break an old habit.
Well, I know in regards to smoking cigarettes, I started smoking in high school. I mean, this is a long time ago, about 11th grade, and I smoked all the way through college. And when I graduated college, I decided, okay, that was enough. I'm going to quit, and I quit for probably 5 years. And it wasn't until I was, going on a road trip and was just by myself driving out to Colorado, and I was in the car, I was bored, and I thought, you know what, I'm on vacation. I quit before, I'll quit again. And yeah, I quit again about 5 years later. It was, it's easy to fall back into those habits. It is a daily, we all face daily struggles. But lately, I think I've realized that the way we change, as we get older, our views change and our needs change. And I know that I had to adapt to the way I was viewing my exercise. Back when I was in graduate school, even though I was working and I was going to school full time, I was not married. I didn't have children, and I was working out 6 days a week. And I was a bull. I'm about between 6'1" and 6'2". I weighed 205 pounds at my peak, and I was just solid muscle. And I had it in my head, that I had to work out, diligently 6 times a week, and I could get back to that. But I don't have the time to do that anymore. I barely have time, to run out to the, I don't have time to run out to the gym.
Yeah, because
something had to change.
Life happens, man. When you have a family and you have kids and you have responsibilities, it is very difficult in order to make that happen. We're not like when we were kids and we used to ride our bikes over to the Nautilus gym at the, and do squats all day. That we can't do that anymore.
Yeah, life has changed, and also I think that my motivation has changed. I'm not trying to pick up girls. I'm married with children. So, I just want to be in good shape, and, I want to be that guy. I turned 50 in just over a year, and I want to be that 50-year-old guy that puts the 25-year-old guy to shame, as far as physicality and what I can do.
Well, the thing is too, you got to watch when you're get older, like we are, you don't recuperate as quickly either. I notice that I have all these small little injuries, and, every morning when I wake up, I walk like I'm crippled. By the end of the day, I'm rolling around on a jiu-jitsu mat. But the next morning I pay for it, because you get that weekend warrior syndrome where you think you can move like you did when you were 20 years old, but you can't. You got to take some time and relax and stretch more and warm up.
Yeah, I think it's for me, why the push-ups have been working is because I'm doing it on a daily basis. I'm doing it three times a day. I do it in the morning before I have my coffee, and then I walk my kids to the bus stop, and then I do it at lunch. As I'm heating up my lunch, because I work from home, so I'm able to do that, and then I do it sometime in the evening, and I'm going to keep doing it because I'm seeing the results, and I think it does help me become more of who I want, who I see myself as, and what I want to be when I grow up, whenever that is. Let's see. Yeah, another thing that I've changed recently too is that, and I've never been on any type of, daily medication. I don't, I've been very healthy, thank God. Been healthy, and I haven't had to do that. But look, recently, my allergies have really been kicking up, and my doctor put me on this daily pill. And plus, I have
Is that Viagra?
No, I have no need for that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But so taking that pill every day, it was difficult. And I'm supposed to take it at night. So I
just make sure after 4 hours to consult your physician.
Don't call your friends. But I also have another condition too. It's a genetic condition in my hands called Dupuytren's contracture, and what it is my body is creating scar tissue and placing it around the joints, and I've had to have a hand surgery for it because otherwise I'd be like the claw. So I take vitamin E to do that, and I had the vitamin E tablet on my desk, and even though I saw it every day, I was not really consistent with it. So what I've done is I've just brought up the pills to to where I brush my teeth, and I have the pill, and I take them every night before I go to bed, and without fail. I mean, it's working, and that's another thing. It's when you talk about triggers and what you want when you want to initiate something new, it's always good to kind of tack it on to something you're already doing. So every night I brush my teeth before I go to bed. So I see my toothbrush, and before I even reach for the toothbrush, I see the vitamins there and that medication. And it reminds me, oh yeah, I got to take that, and I got to do it before I brush my teeth because
it's something simple like that. I started, I wasn't the best when I was younger as far as brushing my teeth and taking care of my teeth. And I made a commitment to myself that I would start going 4 times. Every 3 months, I go to get a cleaning, which makes it easier because they used to always yell and bitch at me whenever I was in the middle of a cleaning and say, hey, you need to floss more, you need to do this. So, and I never could floss properly. I don't know why. Maybe I had fat fingers and they couldn't stick in my mouth properly. So I ended up buying those little flossers. And you know what? I know that's not the perfect solution, but it was the perfect solution for me and allowed me to keep the habit. So it was something that changed my dental health and, does have a direct correlation with, heart disease. They've proved a connection between, your mouth, your
right.
gingivitis and everything else that you can have and heart disease. So I think it was trying to be proactive, and that's one thing that I've been very religious to. And it follows up to the whole point where we're talking about you focus on one thing, you change one thing about yourself. It could be something small or it could be something big. But if you tackle one thing rather than trying to take too much on at once, it was almost like the episode that we were talking about concentrating your forces, and the laws of power. It's you're able to focus and have clarity on that one object. Once you get past a certain time frame, it becomes a habit and you don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this recently too. And back in the days when I was a bodybuilder, they used to say, don't if you want to if you really want to gain weight, you don't focus on working out a 2-pound muscle. You focus on building a 10-pound muscle.
Right. You want bigger biceps. You train your backs and your back and your legs.
Right. And the reason for that is because if you double the weight of a 2-pound muscle, you have a 4-pound muscle. If you double the weight of a 10-pound muscle, you have a 20-pound muscle. And if you're trying to gain weight, and gain muscle mass, then that's a focused, you change your approach. And, again, I think it's having one specific goal, but having multiple benefits from that goal. Like you said, you work the bigger muscles and it works the smaller muscles as well. So it applies to change as well. Giving up smoking helped me in so many different ways. It not only did I not smell like smoke anymore, but I benefited my health. I could breathe again. I could do more. even even food tasted better.
Don't mind me. My digital recorder is low on battery.
Okay. But change is difficult, and it's never going to be easy, especially something worthwhile. But we all have to change, and it's a part of life that I think we have to accept. Change is inevitable, and the more you're open to it, the more you're able to do it and actually live a much a better, more fulfilled life when you're able to adapt. Things change. About 5 years ago, I'd been working for the company that I worked for 10 years. I've been there 15 years now, but 5 years ago, my position was eliminated, and I had never worried about being without a job, and I was also working a financial plan, and my wife and I were finally making positive movement on that. So I had a decision to make. I thought, holy crap, here I am. I'm finally making traction on the financial plan, but I've lost my job. What the hell do I do? And I went back to, I thought, what? I've been working on two goals. That's having money in the bank and not owing anybody any money. And as long as I'm working towards those goals, and I'll be happy. And so I started, kind of looking for other jobs and, widening my job search and willing to move out of the state or, go wherever the money is, do whatever I needed to do to keep going on those two goals. And something funny happened. My old company hired me back. I was making more money. I was working at home. I kept all my benefits, and everything just fell into place. But I think my attitude changed, and it made me stronger personally and professionally because of the way I viewed my life. And from that point, I was actually able to. My wife and I were able to pay off over $90,000 of debt in about 2.5 years. That was amazing. It was an amazing time, and it proved to me, focus, concentration, and on that goal, you could do anything. And it carries over, into your health, into your finances. It affects your life in so many different ways.
Mario in the chat room had brought up when you were talking about bodybuilding, saying how it was such a big part of it is sleep. Yeah. And, that's one thing that, we were talking about exercising when you're older, you have to be able to recuperate. And that's one of the things a habit I had changed a while ago, because I used to stay up, till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and then wake up at, 6 o'clock in the morning and be on 4 hours of sleep. And it just doesn't happen. So I always try to make sure I get to sleep at a good time now, in order to allow my body to recuperate if I'm training. And even if when I'm not training. And now if I don't get 7 or 8 hours, man, I feel it. I'm groggy for the rest of the day. And, I think it was yesterday we had a tournament. My son competed at a jiu-jitsu tournament, and I knew I had to wake up, and I woke up early. I woke up like at 6, and I didn't have to be there till like 9. And I just my eyes popped open, and then I couldn't get back to sleep. And for the rest of the day, I was tired. And by 10:30 hit, I was out, man. I couldn't stay. I was falling asleep. I was at the computer falling asleep, and I was like, you know what? It's Saturday night. I don't have anywhere to be. Let me go to bed. And this morning I woke up, and I felt great. And that's one of those things that you take for granted, but a good rest and good sleep is very important.
When you're younger, I think you're more able to do that. I mean, I remember, being in college, and like we'd go on road trips, and you could sleep on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And wake up, and be fine.
You think you are. I mean, we would go out, Saturday night, you party, you're out till like 4 in the morning, and then you have to work the next day, and you think you could do it, but really it still wears you down. And now if I do that, if I try to work out and I don't sleep, it's like instantly I get sick. The next day I wake up and I got the back of my throat is itchy, and before you know it, I got some bug that's been floating around.
Yeah, it's funny though too. They say as you get older, you need less sleep.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that.
Yeah, I think it's the quality sleep. The quality of your sleep counts. Yeah, I've noticed sensitivity at night. I feel like I've got all these attachments now. I've got like the eye mask.
You have an eye mask?
I use the Breathe Right strips.
You're like my dad.
Hey, man, but I get a good night's sleep out of it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I used to have, long time ago, one of my Sifu, remember my Wing Chun teacher, that was the big thing, is when you sleep, you have to sleep in a dark room. You got to have, like, if you have windows, man, put curtains all over them. If you need one of those masks, put it on, because it should be dark and it should be cool. That's the best time that you're going to get a good night's sleep. But eye mask, I don't have. I think my wife would, I don't know. They gave me enough crap anyways right now. So
you draw big eyes on it, so it looks
like I'm awake.
It really freaks them out. My wife has those plug-in scents in the bathroom, and it has a little light in it. And I swear it's not bright, but I have to just shut that bathroom door because that stupid that night light will wake me up.
Oh, that's why my wife will sleep on the couch because, she's opposite. She wants the TV on. I can't stand it. If there's a TV on, or if the radio's on, or even she'll put on like the music channel. If it has vocals in it, forget it, man. It's going off. I'll wait till she falls asleep and I turn it down to the point you can't even hear it.
Let's see. Just so we're not just talking about our sleep patterns here. So there's three parts that keep
kicking ass.
Sorry.
So there's the three parts to creating new habits. The trigger, the behavior, and the reward. And a lot of people forget about that reward. Just saying, telling yourself, "Good job," like after I do a set of push-ups, and say, "Hey, man, you did it." Get it done, do it. Just that little bit of reward, that verbal reward, is good enough to keep that going. I think the physical changes that I'm seeing through this very minor investment of my time is, it's amazing. That's actually, motivating me to keep going and to try to push myself even more. I was having a beer with my neighbor across the street, and it's summertime. He's wearing a short sleeve shirt, and I noticed he's got veins and definition in his arms, and that's like the first time I had ever noticed that. And I was like, Dave, you working out? He says, no. He says, I don't work out because I do 200 push-ups a day. I do 2 sets, and I'm like, I'm kind of like sheepish because I'm I was doing like 25 or 30, but it really did motivate me to hear that and keep going. And how long does it take me to do that? It takes me about a minute for each set. So over a period of day, I'm exercising for 3 minutes, which is nothing.
Right. It really, working out doesn't take that much time. It's the prepping to work out, and the showering and the changing. And, I know, because everyone in my family trains, right? They all do jujitsu. And then my wife and my daughter both do CrossFit. So I do the laundry. So I'm always like, my God, man, there's like twice as much laundry than we used to have. And it's because, my wife wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning, does CrossFit, comes home, cooks dinner, for later on in the evening, goes to work, comes home, trains jujitsu. And then when we come home, that's when we eat dinner, and that's like, she does that 3 days a week for training like that. And then she also goes on Saturday and does the same thing, that she just doesn't have to wake up as early because it's the weekend.
Yeah. Now, measurable, I'm a numbers guy, and I think it's important to have measurable goals. And, when I was looking back at one of our past episodes, probably about 6 months ago, I think we're creating a video record of our reps, as far as exercises are concerned, and maybe we'll be able to track our progress, through this. But, which is going to keep us honest, and we talk about accountability as well. And I don't want to make this broadcast about how I'm doing this and doing so great. And I know someone's going to kind of hold me to that. I don't want to fail.
Right. No, it does. When you put yourself out there, it definitely, but that's what I said. I waited before I told anyone I had quit Diet Coke. That was a big thing for me, man, to try to kick drinking Diet Coke. It may seem very insignificant, but to me, it was a bad addiction. And, I feel now confident that I have kicked it. I don't need it anymore. And I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to say that I'm not going to have one ever again, but I'm not going to have one anytime soon, to prove to myself and to prove to everyone else, but mainly myself. That's what it is, that I could do it, and that, I feel healthier for it. So
it'll be interesting to see if you feel the way I feel about cigarettes. It's like, is that one sip of Diet Coke going to set you back on?
Like I said, I feel no different. I don't see other than the stimulation from the caffeine. The only thing I think is that I would overeat when I drink Diet Coke because it tastes good. So if you're eating a pizza, wash it down with some Diet Coke. Yeah, it tastes good. And you keep on going. It's like pizza and beer or anything that complements each other. And I would overeat because I was drinking the soda. I think that's the main thing that was bothering me. But like I said, I had a lot of aches and pains. I was like, could this be contributing? And everyone, like I said, my jiu-jitsu school's at a CrossFit gym. So, you have these people that are like paleo this, paleo that, and, anything artificial is horrible. You're putting poison in your veins. So, I hear all this stuff, and I felt like I'm being condemned. I felt like, man, all right, I'm a Coke addict. I'm sorry. But, to me, I don't think drinking water, I can't go wrong.
Yeah, you mentioned paleo, and I tried paleo for a number of months because of my hands, and I had heard that people with Dupuytren's contracture can benefit from doing the paleo diet.
Right. Well, so you cut out the carbs. Carbs are shown to cause inflammation, but
it affected my sleep. Giving up flour products, and I'd go to sleep at a regular time. And I had tons of energy just immediately once I gave up the flour products, but it would wake me up. I'd wake up about 4 a.m. After 4 hours of sleep, I'd wake up just bright-eyed, and couldn't really go back. It took me a little bit of while to go back to sleep, and it really disrupted my sleep pattern. I understand a lot of people who are on paleo that happens to. It'd be interesting to to hear if other people have had that experience.
Well, I did paleo for a little while, and for the first 2 weeks, I'd go to class and I felt like, man, I was dying. Like I had no energy because your body's used to using carbohydrates as its energy source. And when you go on paleo, you get rid of the complex carbs or the sugar that you're using to fuel yourself, and you start using your body fat. And it takes about 2 weeks before that kicks in and you start using body fat. So after that, it was fine. And I noticed one thing: you don't overeat. Like if you're eating meat or, nuts and seeds and everything else that's on paleo, it's harder to overeat because, you can only eat so much protein and you're just like, I can't eat anymore. Well, you don't crave it like you do carbs. Like spaghetti, you could just keep on eating or pizza,
I guess I had a modified paleo diet, and for people who don't know what the paleo diet is, it's basically called the caveman diet. You're supposed to eat like the caveman, and the premise is that when man first started evolving, and that was, they were in their prime, whatever they were eating enabled them to really evolve. I guess that's the best way to say it. But no one really knows what the caveman ate or didn't eat. It's all kind of a guess. So I just tried to avoid flour, and maybe it was more like a gluten-free type of diet. I had lower back pain, and when I told my chiropractor about my paleo diet, I said I was going to have to give up booze. And back then I was drinking bourbon and ginger ale. I liked, and I'm not a big drinker, but I like to have a nightcap. Right. And he said, don't give up, don't give up the don't give up the booze. He just said, switch to Guinness because it has, it has less calories than most American light beers, as well as it has vitamins and minerals such as magnesium, which is an anti-inflammatory. And he said he said that would help me. So I decided to do that and keep him as a doctor. I thought that was pretty good. He would prescribe me beer.
How's your wife feel about that?
But I ate potato. I switched, like, instead of pasta, I would eat like spaghetti sauce over potatoes, and it tastes great. And what amazed me is how I felt. I felt great, and I actually lost weight, but I wasn't hungry at all. I mean, I was very filled, and it was.
Yeah, my wife and daughter. My wife and daughter are actually doing the paleo challenge right now. So they've been, I'd say, probably about 2 months almost. And I'm very proud of my daughter. She's actually prepares all her meals. She makes spaghetti squash. So it's squash that looks like noodles, and you put sauce on it and stuff. Yeah, it is good, And yeah, it takes a while getting used to, switching from, carbs, because I love my bread. That's the next step I was talking about. I kicked Diet Coke, and now I'm cutting out bread. So I'm not, sandwiches and, all that stuff. And I'm not trying to go crazy. I'm not cutting out all carbs right now, but I'm starting with one small step that I know that I can handle. And bread's another big one for me because I love my bread, but it's one small thing that I can feel like I can tackle. I'll try that for a couple of months, and then I'll find my next thing that's bothering me.
What I noticed too was when I was giving up flour products, I noticed how everyone gravitates towards food that has flour products in it, particularly birthday cake or any type of cake or any type of dessert.
Well, we just had some. It was Jen's birthday yesterday, so we've.
It's hard to give up, but what I noticed is that people almost treat flour products almost like how addicts treat their drugs. They're like, "Hey, man, did you try this cake? It's awesome. You have this cake." And there's almost like an addictive behavior going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And of course, I'm like, "Yeah, man, pass me the cake." But it was hard for me to give that up. But I do try to limit the flour because I noticed a big difference. And what was interesting, if I had even a little bit of flour, pizza. My kids love pizza, and it's hard. But if I'd have even a little bit, I lost my tolerance to it almost immediately, and I started almost getting sick to my stomach by having just a little bit of flour. So,
right. Well, you think this about beats the horse and ready to call it quits on us? After all,
I think so. I think we're talking about food, and I'm getting hungry.
All right. So, where can people find out more, John?
SwiftKickInTheAss.com.
Yeah, we try to do action plans for every episode. Those will be coming out. You opt in. You'll start off with a 10-page action plan that John has wrote that's very useful. Might change your life. And check out once you're opted in for that, you get any other action plans that we create for any episode. And we're going to go back and do all the 48 laws of power. We're going to go back and make action plans for all of those. So you opt in, you'll get all that cool stuff. And I'm Tom Stewart. Thanks for listening. See you.
John Curren. Till next time. Thanks.
Peace.